Let's have a little fun and go on a side quest today. Hang on a second. Check this thing out. So I took this basin a couple months ago on a partial trade. It is a Soviet era, Russian instrument that I don't know too much about. It's incomplete and it's obviously been modified over the years by someone. I highly doubt that this is the original paint that's on it. But what I do know about it is that the pickups work. And so the neck looks kind of straight, the pickups work. So I was like, you know what? I bet you I can make this thing play again. So let's do just that. A quick internet search revealed that this bass would be called the Boriskov, and here you can see a couple different ones that I found listed on Reverb and other places. And so it looks pretty much like it's supposed to look, although I do question whether the paint's original. And we can see what the missing hardware looks like and what the pickguard would have looked like if it wasn't a piece of plexiglass painted white. Longtime viewers will know that I get into the weird guitars and the offbeat stuff, and including the Soviet era stuff. I actually bought a couple a few years ago, and I've had some customers bring some stuff in that I've worked on them. And I have a couple videos about that stuff if you want to check it out. Some of you might remember this one from a video that I said I was going to go back into and make work, and I just ended up kind of losing interest in it. But what I liked about it is it had this giant cavity, and so I used it to test pickups. I just pop them in there, and I put this old kind of knockoff neck on it. But anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about this. We've got some kind of contractor screws holding in this tail piece, which is probably original, and this pickguard was cut out of plexiglass and looks like it was spray painted on the back. But the pickups are original, the body is original, the neck is original. You can also see up here, these tuners may or may not be original, but they're definitely like not good, so I'm going to replace those. You can see this nut is definitely not original. Someone glued it on and it's like, it's not even carved in, it's just sort of stuck there. So what we're going to do is we're going to strip it down, we'll clean up this fingerboard a little bit, we'll replace the tuners, we'll carve a new nut for it, and then down here I will probably create a new pickguard for it with some different electronics components, maybe a switch. We got like a piece of, like, I don't even know what this is, like leather or something holding on this. So we'll do something better there. We'll just leave the paint the way it is. And then the biggest problem is a bridge. So these instruments were designed to be used with like a floating wooden bridge usually, and you can kind of see a little bit of an indentation in the paint here, which makes me think that this must have been strung up at some point in time after it was painted. I mean, maybe they used house paint in the factory in the 70s there. They did all sorts of weird stuff, but this plexiguard is definitely not original. The screws are definitely not original. But so the neck on these, it doesn't really conform to standard, like Fender-ish type guitars. It's a lot narrower, so I can't just use a Fender style bridge on it because the strings will just never, it's just too narrow. So I'm gonna have to manufacture them, but we'll worry about that later. We'll deal with that later. We'll do all the easy stuff first. So we'll strip it down. Be careful with these pickups that have this sort of naga hide cover on them. Another thing that's fun about this is the scale length. So we're at 15 5/8 to the 12th fret, so that would be 31 1/4 inch scale. It probably makes sense in metric. Whatever, that'll be fun too. Sometimes it's real fun stripping down a guitar like this, and I save all the parts, of course, even though I know a lot of them I'm not going to use, but just, for reference or whatever. Well, it took a few minutes. So you can see these pots are definitely newer. I'm gonna make a better pickguard for it, and it looks like we just had 2 volumes on here. We'll see if we can do something a little better than that. There were these little teeny tiny nuts holding the pickups on, and I was very excited to see that my square multi-wrench was able to get them off. So I pulled them off, and you can see the pickups are definitely Russian. So unfortunately, this lead pulled off the coil, and so I'm trying to see if I can, if I have to make another coil I can, and I'll just put it back together, but I'd like to save this one obviously, and so I'm trying to just peel back this tape and see if I can see exactly where it goes. And it looks like this was like wound by hand, like someone just like wrapped this copper wire around like a spool of some sort, and it looks like it was actually like tied with like string. See that string there? So I'm assuming that where this blue piece of tape was the other end, because the red goes in there. And so I'm just looking to see if I can find the end of the wire. We'll try to solder onto that and see if we can't save this coil. So this is the pickup without the broken wire. I'm just trying to get a reading off it. We're at 2.5 ohms resistance, so we'll use that as a reference for this. I think I got it connected. I gotta be extra careful here to not make any sudden movements while it's so fragile. Look at that, it works. Okay, so now I gotta very carefully tape this all back together. Okay, so I got it back working. One of the things that always cracks me up about these like Russian pickups is like both wires are red. You know, coming off the coil and stuff, and just like always, like, and even in other guitars, there's like one. Sometimes the negative will be red, sometimes it'll be black. This is a much newer material, so it's not original to the pickup, and it's not really cut to fit well. So someone did that. Obviously, the covers were missing, and I think I can do something maybe a little bit better than that. This is like the worst design, that these screws are like in here and they're just loose underneath all this cover, so you'd have to like take the cover off and like screw it in or whatever. So I just went and I just put a dab of super glue on there, and I think that'll be enough to where I can just tighten the nuts down onto a board or whatever. And then I cut these little pieces of cereal box to sort of back up this pleather cover here. So now, in theory, when this pickup is closed, I want to get that wire over here. So now, in theory, I don't have to actually open this up anymore, and that makes the top smooth and even, because you see like the magnets are broken in here. I don't know if they're done like that on purpose. So now we got to make a better pickguard for it. And you know, normally I would do this on my laser, but I don't have any of these files digitally, so I'd have to like create this digitally. I think it might just be easier to trace this. Could also go closet door, because, well, it's my workshop, so why wouldn't it be closet door? And if you look, that kind of actually sort of matches the fingerboard. So that might be kind of a cool option. I just feel like white is, I mean, the white looks cool. Oh ho ho, I just found this. Some actual perloid white. I used some scrap MDF to make a quick template. That way I could shape this in and then glue that pickguard material onto it and get a nice clean edge. A little bit easier to work that way. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. Sometimes I use two-sided tape for these sorts of things, and sometimes I make my own two-sided tape with masking tape and super glue like I did here, because I find it easier on something thin and fragile like this. It's almost easier to pull that masking tape off than it is two-sided tape. Yeah, so when I first saw this bass, before I started taking it apart, I thought for sure someone like grabbed some paint that they had in their basement and like repainted it. But now that I have this off, like, it's I'm pretty sure that this is all like original paint. That this is how they this is what they did. I wired it up with a volume and tone control, and then I also put two little white flat push buttons on-off switches in there, one to turn each pickup on or off, instead of putting a three-way. I thought it looked more appropriate for this instrument. And I replaced the leather or whatever quarter-inch jack holder with a metal one. I had to edit the tuner holes on the headstock to take these new modern Gotha style tuners, and then I also actually had to edit the truss rod cover to fit around the larger Gotha style tuners. And there are no markings on this instrument at all, so I thought I would misleadingly just put my logo on the back. I should put a QR code to this video so people understand why it's there. And I think there's supposed to be a metal plate here, but I don't have it, so I just put it back together the way it was. I did a real quick fret job on it to just take care of any high spots and polish them up a little bit. Nothing too crazy. Those frets are really soft, those old Soviet era frets. You know, part of me always thinks about replacing them, but then there's still plenty of meat on them, so it worked out pretty good. Let's wrap this one up here for now. Tune in next time and I will go ahead and create this bridge that I've been kind of working on behind the scenes. This is a very early prototype of it. There's going to be more of that in the future. And we'll get the thing strung up and you'll get to hear it. And also next week when this video comes out, I will be auctioning this bass off on eBay. The proceeds will go to a Ukrainian war relief effort, and all of that information will be available when this next video comes out. So stay tuned for that, and this bass could be yours. Spoiler alert, it's pretty cool. All right, see you then.